The warm September sun flooded the spacious backyard of a large suburban house, where guests were gathering for the wedding of Michael Carter's father, Daniel, and his fiancée, Anna. A white wedding tent stood in the center of the lawn, decorated with soft pink roses and delicate strings of lights. Elegant tables were covered with spotless white cloths, and crystal glasses sparkled in the sunlight. Everything looked perfect, as if the celebration had been taken straight from the pages of a luxury wedding magazine. Guests laughed, music played quietly in the background, and waiters moved between the tables carrying trays of champagne. But for 12-year-old Michael Carter, the celebration felt nothing like a joyful event. To him, it felt wrong, completely wrong. Michael stood near the edge of the yard, slightly apart from the crowd. His hands were buried deep in the pockets of his jacket, and his cold gray eyes silently watched the happy guests. Women in elegant dresses chatted excitedly about the ceremony. Men shook hands and joked loudly near the bar. Everyone seemed happy. Everyone except him. Inside Michael, there was a heavy emptiness that refused to disappear. Just a few months earlier, his life had fallen apart. His mother had died after a sudden illness. And now his father was getting married again. Too quickly. Much too quickly. As if the past had simply been erased. Michael could still remember everything about his mother, the way she laughed, the quiet evenings they spent together, the warm smell of her perfume. Back then, their family had felt strong and unbreakable. Just 3 people. Mom, Dad, and him. Now everything was different. The only thing that had helped Michael survive those first terrible weeks after his mother's death had been his cat, Rusty. Rusty was a fluffy orange cat who followed him everywhere. When Michael felt sad, Rusty would quietly jump onto his lap and curl up beside him. It was as if the cat somehow understood his pain. But 2 days ago, Rusty had disappeared, vanished without a trace. Michael had searched the entire neighborhood, calling his name until his throat hurt. But Rusty never came back. And for some reason, Michael couldn't stop thinking about Anna. She stood near the center of the yard, surrounded by guests. Her white wedding dress shimmered softly in the sunlight. Her long blonde hair fell in perfect waves over her shoulders, and her makeup was flawless. She looked beautiful, too perfect. To everyone else, she seemed like the perfect woman. But Michael didn't trust her, not for a second. Something about her always felt wrong. Every now and then she glanced at him with a strange expression in her eyes. Cold, calculating, as if she was hiding something. And every time their eyes met, a chill ran down Michael's spine. "Michael, come here for a second," his father called warmly. Daniel Carter stood beside Anna, smiling proudly as he spoke with relatives. "Come meet some of Anna's family." Michael didn't move. His gaze drifted across the yard toward the far corner, where Rusty had played just a few days earlier. The empty grass felt like a silent reminder that something important had been taken away from him. For a moment, Michael had a strange thought. What if this entire wedding was just a beautiful decoration, hiding something much darker? The feeling settled deep in his chest, and it refused to go away. The party continued. Music grew louder. Laughter filled the air. But Michael barely noticed any of it. Inside the house, a television played quietly in the living room. Michael had wandered inside earlier just to escape the noise. A news broadcast was showing a report about a series of mysterious disappearances. Several wealthy businessmen had vanished over the past year. No witnesses, no clear suspects. The news anchor spoke calmly, while photos of the missing men appeared on the screen. Michael watched silently. Something about the story made him uneasy. Out of the corner of his eye, he noticed Anna entering the room for a moment to grab something from the kitchen. She froze briefly when she saw the TV. Her eyes focused on the screen. For just a second, her perfect smile disappeared. Then she quickly turned away and walked outside again. Michael frowned. Why had she reacted like that? Just then, the camera on the news switched to a sketch of a possible suspect. A woman, middle-aged, sharp features, and on her wrist, a small tattoo, a tiny black cross. Michael felt his stomach twist, because he had seen that exact tattoo before, earlier that afternoon, on Anna's wrist. It had been small, almost invisible, but now he was certain. The same cross, the same shape, the same place. Michael's heart began beating faster. His thoughts started racing. Maybe it was just a coincidence, but deep inside he already knew something terrible was hidden beneath Anna's perfect smile. And suddenly another thought struck him. Rusty, the way the cat had stared at Anna that day, the strange cold look in her eyes. Michael slowly stood up. His hands trembled slightly. No one would believe him. After all, he was just a 12-year-old boy. And Anna was a beautiful, successful woman everyone adored. But his instincts were screaming. Something was wrong, very wrong, and he was going to prove it. The sun slowly began to sink behind the tall trees surrounding the Carter house. The sky turned shades of orange and gold, while the wedding guests continued celebrating under the glowing lights of the white tent. Music played louder now. Champagne glasses clinked. Laughter filled the warm evening air. But Michael Carter wasn't celebrating. He was walking alone along the edge of the property, searching the nearby woods and fields once again. Searching for Rusty. The air had become colder as the evening approached, and a quiet wind rustled through the tall grass. "Rusty," Michael called softly. His voice echoed into the empty distance. No answer. Just silence. A heavy feeling settled in his chest. Then suddenly something caught his eye. Near a small ditch behind the house, the grass looked disturbed. Michael slowly walked closer. His heart started beating faster. And then he saw it. Rusty. The orange cat lay motionless in the grass. For a moment, Michael froze. His legs felt weak as he knelt down beside the small body. "Rusty," he whispered. But the cat didn't move. His fur was dirty, and his body was cold. Tears immediately filled Michael's eyes. Rusty had been the last thing that reminded him of the time when his family had still been whole, when his mother was alive. Now even that was gone. Michael gently wrapped the cat in his old sweater, the one Rusty always loved to sleep on. His hands were shaking. But along with the pain came something else. Anger. A deep, burning certainty. He didn't believe this was an accident. Not for a second. When Michael returned to the yard, the wedding ceremony was about to begin. Guests were gathering around the altar under the glowing lights of the tent. Anna stood beside Daniel in her beautiful white dress. She looked calm, confident, perfect, as if nothing in the world could disturb this moment. But Michael knew better. His eyes fixed on her wrist again, the tiny cross tattoo, the same one from the news report, the same symbol. Everything suddenly felt clear. Michael took a deep breath. His heart pounded in his chest. Then he stepped forward, right into the center of the celebration, and shouted, She's a murderer. The music stopped instantly. The guests fell silent. Dozens of shocked faces turned toward him. Daniel looked confused. Michael, what are you talking about? But Michael walked closer to Anna. His voice trembled, but he didn't stop. Look at her wrist, he said loudly. That tattoo. It's the same one from the news. The woman they're looking for. A murmur spread through the crowd. People leaned forward, staring. Anna's smile slowly disappeared. Her expression changed. Cold, sharp, dangerous. And she killed my cat, Michael continued, his voice shaking with anger. Rusty disappeared 2 days ago. I just found him. For a moment, the entire tent stood frozen in silence. Then Anna moved. Her hand suddenly grabbed a fork from the nearby table. Before anyone could react, she lunged forward toward Michael. You should have stayed quiet, she hissed. But Daniel reacted instantly. He pulled Michael back and stepped in front of him. The fork flashed in the air but missed. Guests screamed. Chairs fell over. Someone shouted to call the police. Anna stood there breathing heavily, her calm mask completely gone. Her eyes were wild now, like a cornered predator. Within minutes, the distant sound of police sirens filled the night air. Blue and red lights flashed across the yard. Officers rushed in and quickly restrained Anna as shocked guests watched in disbelief. The perfect wedding had turned into a crime scene. Weeks later, the courtroom felt cold and silent. Anna Carter sat at the defendant's table. Gone was the elegant woman from the wedding day. Her face looked pale and exhausted. Michael sat beside his father in the front row. Over the past weeks, something between them had changed. They had grown closer again, stronger, together. The judge's voice echoed through the courtroom. Anna Sergeyevna Volkov, the court finds you guilty of multiple counts of murder, kidnapping, and aggravated assault. A quiet gasp moved through the room. Your sentence is life imprisonment without parole. The word life seemed to hang heavily in the air. Anna didn't cry. She didn't protest. She just stared forward with empty eyes. During the investigation, police uncovered the truth. Anna had been targeting wealthy businessmen she believed were responsible for her brother's death years earlier. Each crime had been carefully planned. The tattoo on her wrist had been her twisted signature. Rusty had simply been in the wrong place at the wrong time. After the trial, Michael and his father stepped outside the courthouse. Cold winter air brushed against their faces. For the first time in months, everything felt quiet, peaceful. Daniel looked down at his son. Want some ice cream? He asked suddenly. Michael blinked in surprise. In winter? He laughed. Daniel smiled. Why not? They walked into a small cafe nearby and ordered 2 huge bowls of ice cream. For the first time in a long while, they talked openly. About Michael's mom, about Rusty, about everything. Outside the window, snow had started to fall. Soft, white, clean. A new year was coming. And despite everything they had been through, it finally felt like a new beginning. I love you, Dad, Michael said quietly. Daniel placed a hand on his shoulder. I love you too, son. And in that moment, both of them knew something important. They had survived the worst. And somehow, they had managed to remain human.